Today I received a really interesting set of questions regarding ikigai and state of affairs in Japan. So I will try to answer these wonderful questions here on my YouTube channel. And thank you for this wonderful person who sent me these questions. These questions are related to ikigai and also, the problem of the decline of birth rate in Japan and the future of the nation as a whole. So, the first question was, what is your personal experience in the theme? How do you recognize it in your everyday life? You know, ikigai is something like there for the typical Japanese people. So, we actually don't, repeat the mantra of ikigai in our everyday lives. This is the German version of my book Ikigai, and there are five, um, you know, uh, here, five, yes, columns, or in German, fünf Säulen des Ikigai, klein anfangen, loslassen lernen, Harmonie und Nachhaltigkeit leben, die Freude an kleinen Dingen entdecken, im Hier und Jetzt sein. So these are the five pillars of Ikigai, and so you know, um, so it's something really basic and generic in human nature. So it's not necessarily particularly Japanese, but the fact that it is expressed in just one word, ikigai, is interesting fact. And there's this idea in philosophy, lexical hypothesis, which states that if a concept is expressed in one word in a particular culture, that concept is important. So, the fact that ikigai is expressed as one word in Japanese means that it is important in the lives of the Japanese people. And, I think Japan is a nation of small joys. That's one of the five pillars of ikigai. And if you come to Japan, you notice that the Japanese culture takes really, really meticulous care of small things, small details in food presentation, in the depiction of characters in anime, and on the street designs and signs. And so, it's a celebration of diversity. And I think the celebration of diversity is something that we hold really dear, and it's central to our heart. And ikigai is about diversity, I think. So everyone recognizes his or her ikigai in his or her unique way. So that's how we go about the business of finding ikigai. Small things, small joys. It's not something that is dictated from the top. So the next question is, how do you see the demographic challenges facing Japan? Do you think it's a big problem, or do you see it as normal? Um, I think it's a huge problem of, you know, the declining population and the low birth rate. And but people are happy. I mean, if you come to Japan, we have everything here. Although global challenges mean that the stability of the economy and society might be, at risk from here. But for the moment, Japan is, okay. Although people always complain about, the lack of income growth and economic growth in general. But the life in Japan is not so bad. So, seeing that, you might actually feel that there's no demographic challenges. But having said that, of course, the statistics suggest that there will be less working age people, and there will be less children to support the future generations, and less people means that there would be less room for innovation, and so that is a huge problem. Having said that, I think you know I think one of the most interesting aspects of Japanese culture is resilience. Japan has experienced many natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic eruptions, and so on. So the Japanese culture is based on the spirit of resilience, and I think ikigai is actually central to that resilience. So I think, although the statistics suggest that the challenges are real, demographic challenges are real. There might be actually democratic challenges as well. Anyway, I think we are coping. Yeah, we have this spirit of resilience. So let's see. Question number three. There are five questions sent by this wonderful questioner. What do you expect from the future? Do you think there will be significant changes in Japanese culture or politics with the economy eventually collapse? Um, I think this is a really interesting question, and one of the really um, touchy political debate is about immigration, and it's a political hot potato. I mean, no politician would like to hold it in his or her hand too long because it's burning. It's going to burn your hands. We do have wonderful people from abroad studying here, working here, and that might be actually increasingly, um, you know, necessity. And of course, in today's world, if a person wants to live in another country, if the regulation or law of that country allows it, of course he or she is entirely free to do that. I might actually want to live in Germany, from here. I don't know. It might happen. I need to study German a bit more. So anyway, so immigration is one possible way to solve the perceived demographic question. But then there are issues about assimilation and cultural coherence and community building and so on. And here, I think ikigai can be, uh, you know, silver lining in the clouds. It could be one possible solution because if we share the same ikigai base, we can probably live happily together. For example, in Japan, we have a lot of festivals. People carry something called mikoshi. If you search for mikoshi images, you will get the idea. There are Bon Odori dance festival, which uh, is supposed to bring and welcome the souls of dead people, your ancestors. It's held, it's held every summer. On the New Year's Eve, we have Hatsumode, the first visit to the shrine of the year. All these wonderful festivals, and these festivals would bring people together, and it's a really great opportunity for sharing ikigai. So I do hope that sharing ikigai would help us build a community, a diverse community, which might, in part, solve Japanese problems, and but that would also be not automatic. It'll be a lot of challenges, and we really need to, carefully debate among us, I think. Number four, in order to combat the declining birth rate, do you see any opportunities? If so, which ones? You know, this is a really interesting and difficult question because we are, you know, animals, and animals reproduce offsprings on the perception of many, subtle, nuanced, parameters in the environment, and nobody knows for sure. Of course, there would be statistical correlations, but nobody knows for sure what actually would determine the birth rate. It is a fact that the birth rate is declining in Japan, but it's not a linear phenomenon. I think once the birth rate declines to a certain level and population starts to, decline and so on, so on, and so on. If that goes for a decade or two, I think there will be a different story altogether. So it's quite difficult to predict what um, you know the birth rate would be in Japan or in any other country from here. And predictive AIs are notoriously bad in their performance. Generative AIs are great, but predictive AIs, I mean, they do not function so well. I mean, it's it, it's really difficult to predict the future. So anyway, so it's not really um, well paved path from here. But if I stick to this issue of ikigai, I think it'll be important to rediscover and redefine the ikigai of having children and raising children, and especially for new mothers and fathers. Not in that order, intended new fathers and mothers, and you know, um, because probably there is actually a monoculture of ikigai in Japanese society, and ikigai must be discovered, in new trends when your life uh, cycle changes, and you are in a new period of your life. So, I think uh, I think if people can discover ikigai in previously unexperienced, inexperienced domains of life, I think there might be actually a good effect on birth rate. I mean, we might be having more children. Anyway, that's all speculation. As I said, as a matter of natural science, it is really difficult to predict what parameters determine the birth rate and so on. And question number 5. And finally, in your opinion, what is the reason for the decline in the birth rate? Is it the Japanese people, or is it a culture problem, or is it something else entirely? You know, in the brain, the dopamine system determines which actions will be reinforced. And for now, I think in Japanese society, um, the activities leading to more money making, more money making, or more individual freedom is reinforced by the dopaminergic system. So, it used to be that people didn't have that kind of freedom of in their life cycle. So, when a time came in their lives to have children, they did, more or less. Not all people, but more or less. So, I think the decline in birth rate probably correlates with the increased degree of freedom that we have in life here in Japan, and that is a good thing. That is a good thing, I think. But uh, there's a trade-off, I think, between uh, having more freedom and aligning with a life of having children and raising them. So it's a difficult issue, and nobody is perfect. No world is perfect. Um, if I borrow the words of Gottfried Leibniz, a German philosopher, he said that this world is the best of all possible worlds, right? So, although we might think that, mm, this is a problem, the declining birth rate is a problem, actually, that actually might be something that it's good from the viewpoint of something else. So, as I said, declining birth rate is a problem, but on the other hand, it is a testimony of the fact that the Japanese people are having more freedom. So, you know, there's a silver lining to the cloud of declining birth rate. So, anyway, so I think it's really important to define new ikigais and rediscover new ikigai in today's world, because, as I said, if Japan is going to have some more immigration, we need to have a shared base of ikigai, shared base of community-related ikigai, like in festivals and helping each other and understanding each other and so on. In the case of declining child birth rate, I think rediscovering and reclaiming the ikigai of having children and raising them would be crucial. So I see ikigai as kind of one of the central pieces in solving uh, problems in this country. And as I said at the beginning, the fact that the Japanese language has one word for ikigai is a great testimony of the fact that uh, you know we in our culture, ikigai is very important as a concept. So probably we need to polish ikigai and reclaim it and maybe evolve it even in facing the difficulties in today's world. And as I said, Japan is a country of resilience. We've had earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanoes, volcanic eruptions, and so on. So the Mount Fuji has not erupted for three, almost 250, uh, 300 years. So it's about time. I'm not saying that Mount Fuji would erupt, but it's always possible. So, I think given the culture of resilience here in Japan, I think, you know, probably we will cope. And I do hope that you listening this video response to my the questions that I was sent would find some source of information here. Anyway, my email is at the profile section of my X account. I have Japanese X account and English X account. Japanese X account is at Kenichiro Mogi, and the English X account is at Kenmogi. I also have an Instagram account at Quoria Ken. Quoria Ken. Quoria is the concept of consciousness that I study. Anyway, so if you have any questions, please send them in. It might take some time to answer them, but I will try to answer them. So anyway, thank you for listening, and thank you for the wonderful questions.